Stand by. Oh, there I am. What's up, party people? KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live in a living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time. DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Are you not entertained? Let me entertain you. Yes. Hey, if you're in the Central Arkansas area, I encourage you to check me out. It's Friday night. I encourage you to check me out my usual Friday night gig. It's the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. The video dance party karaoke jam. They got a full bar. The kitchen's open. Pool tables. They got a pool tournament on Friday night. So if you want to try your hand at playing pool and possibly making some money, you could do so at the Rab. David George hanging out on the Facebook. I'm transmitting live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. All at the same time. Ooh, this technology. It's wondrous, I guarantee. Oh, I'm also transmitting on my Twitter, my KeysDAN Twitter, for some reason. It just popped up. I'm able to do so. Hey, if you would like to check me out from time to time, doing some KeysDAN gaming, playing some Fortnite and what have you, I encourage you to check out the hashtag KeysDAN Gaming. And if you'd like to hear the stories of others or tell your own story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast. It's called What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Friday, June 21st, 2022. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, Biden says U.S. won't accept minor incursion in Ukraine. President Biden on Thursday sought to clarify remarks that critics said suggested the United States would accept a quote, minor incursion, end quote, by Russia into Ukraine. Biden warned that the U.S. would unleash a, quote, severe and coordinated economic response, end quote, to any invasion. Quote, I've been absolutely clear with President Vladimir Putin. He has no misunderstanding, end quote. Biden told reporters, adding, quote, if Putin makes this choice, Russia will pay a heavy price, end quote, at a news conference marking the end of his first year in office a day earlier. Biden had said the U.S. response, if Putin decides to, quote, move in, end quote, to Ukraine, quote, depends on what it does, end quote. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, I guess that's pronounced Vladimir as well. Volodymyr Zelensky responded to Biden's earlier remarks by tweeting that, quote, there are no minor incursions, end quote. Tweeting. I guess that's how people speak to each other, even heads of state. There are no phone calls anymore. I thought there was like a red phone on the president's table. This is according to the Washington Post. Number 2, House January 6th committee request Ivanka Trump's cooperation. The House Select Committee investigating the January 6th Capitol attack on Thursday requested an interview with Ivanka Trump, former President Donald Trump's daughter and ex-senior advisor. The committee's chair, Representative Benny Thompson, Democrat Mississippi, said in a letter to Ivanka Trump that it had collected evidence that she had twice urged her father to call off the mob of his supporters rioting at the Capitol in an attempt to block the certification of his election loss to President Biden. The request suggested the panel had stepped up efforts to determine what the former president said and did during the attack. In the letter, Thompson indicated that the committee already had substantial evidence about Trump's refusal to condemn the violence. This is according to the New York Times and Axios. Number 3, Georgia prosecutor calls for special grand jury for Trump election inquiry. Fulton County, Georgia, District Attorney Fani Willis on Thursday requested a special grand jury with subpoena power to help her investigate then-President Donald Trump's efforts to overturn his narrow loss in the state's 2020 presidential vote. Willis said she was making her request because multiple witnesses had refused to cooperate. Willis, a Democrat, singled out Georgia's Republican Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, as an, quote, essential witness, end quote, who had made it clear he would only submit to an interview if subpoenaed. Raffensperger was recorded in a phone call with Trump in which the president pressured him to overturn President Biden's victory in the state because of baseless voter fraud claims. Trump said the grand jury should look into voter fraud, not his, quote, perfect phone call, end quote. This is according to Reuters. Number 4, 9 million stay home from work due to COVID-19. Nearly 9 million Americans had to stay home from work because they or someone they were caring for had COVID-19 in early January. CBS News reported Thursday, citing data collected by the Census Bureau. The surge of workers calling in sick came as the highly contagious Omicron variant drove infections and hospitalizations to record levels. Vital businesses, including hospitals and airlines, face staffing shortages in what has been called the, quote, Great American Sick-Out, end quote. The Census Bureau has been tracking workplace absences since the coronavirus pandemic hit the U.S. 2 years ago. And the January numbers marked a record of about 6% of the workforce staying home. Quote, time and time again, we see that this economy recovery is tied to the pandemic and public health measures, end quote, noted Luke Pardue, an economist at payroll services company Gusto. This is according to CBS News. Number 5, Munich report accuses Pope Benedict of mishandling abuse cases. A report commissioned by the Catholic Church in Germany accused Pope Emeritus Benedict the 16th of, quote, wrongdoing, end quote, in his handling of at least 4 sexual abuse cases when he ran the Munich Archdiocese from 1977 to 1982. In one case, Benedict, then known as Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, knew that a priest had been convicted of sexual abuse in a criminal court, but accepted him into his archdiocese anyway. The law firm that conducted the investigation said Thursday at a news conference where it unveiled its 1,900-page report. Matthias Katsch, a spokesman for the Eckiger Tisch Victims Group, reacted to the report by saying, quote, the building of lies to protect Pope Benedict has just collapsed with a crash, end quote. Benedict's personal secretary made no immediate comment, but the Vatican said it would pay, quote, appropriate attention, end quote, to the findings. This is according to the Washington Post. Number 6, Blinken, Lavrov meet to discuss Ukraine. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov are meeting in Geneva on Friday in high-stakes talks aiming to diffuse escalating tensions over Ukraine. The U.S. is trying to avert a Russian invasion of neighboring Ukraine, but negotiations at a series of meetings in Europe last week failed to produce a breakthrough, largely due to Russia's demand for a guarantee from NATO not to expand in Eastern Europe. Blinken on Thursday tried to douse expectations of a quick resolution in Geneva, saying a fix, quote, won't happen quickly, end quote. The U.S. and its allies in Western Europe have threatened, quote, severe, end quote, sanctions and other consequences short of military action if Russia, which has massed 100,000 troops near the Ukraine border, invades. This is according to the Associated Press. Number 7, U.S. imposes sanctions on 4 Ukrainians for role in Russian propaganda. The Treasury Department on Thursday imposed sanctions against 4 Ukrainians for allegedly helping Russia create the pretext for another invasion. The targeted individuals included Parliament members Taras Kozak and Ole Voloshin, and 2 former government officials. The Treasury said they had been deeply involved in a disinformation campaign by Russia's FSB, Federal Security Service. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and the Kremlin started the effort in 2020, quote, to degrade the ability of the Ukrainian state to independently function, end quote. The United States is taking action to expose and counter Russia's dangerous and threatening campaign of influence and disinformation in Ukraine. Deputy Treasury Secretary Wally Adeyemo said in a statement, quote, we are committed to taking steps to hold Russia accountable for their destabilizing actions, end quote. This is according to the Associated Press. Number 8, mortgage rates rise to highest in 22 months. Mortgage rates this week jumped to their highest level in 22 months as Treasury yields rose. The rate on the 30-year fixed mortgage rose from 3.45% last week to 3.56%. Home buyers rushed to lock in rates before they went any higher, with mortgage applications to purchase homes increasing by 8% last week. The changes followed recent increases in Treasury yields as investors factored in expectations that the Federal Reserve would raise its target interest rates faster and farther than previously predicted as the central bank tries to counter high inflation. The 10-year Treasury has risen to its highest point since December 2019. This is according to Yahoo Finance. Number 9, China limits Winter Olympics torch relay in latest anti-COVID change. China is limiting the Winter Olympics torch relay to 3 days in the latest change in response to the coronavirus pandemic. Organizers of the game said Friday. The flame will only be displayed in, quote, safe and controllable, end quote, closed venues, and no public transit routes will be disrupted by the February 2nd to 4th relay, officials said. China also said recently that it was halting ticket sales and allowing only selected and vetted spectators to attend events. Athletes, officials, staff, and journalists are required to remain within a bubble. ESPN said Thursday it would not send news personnel to the Winter Olympics and would instead, quote, focus on covering the games remotely, end quote. NBC will anchor its coverage from the U.S. This is according to the Associated Press. And number 10, sad news for me because I love this man. Singer Meatloaf is dead at 74. Meatloaf, the singer and actor best known for his 1977 album Bat Out of Hell and his role in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, died Thursday night. According to a statement on his official Facebook page, he was 74. No cause of death was given. Meatloaf, born Marvin Lee Day, and composer Jim Steinman released Bat Out of Hell, which included the hit singles 2 Out of 3 Ain't Bad and Paradise by the Dashboard Light in 1977. Then came together again in 1993 with Bat Out of Hell 2, Back into Hell. That album included I'll Do Anything for Love, But I Won't Do That, which reached #1 in 28 countries and won Meatloaf a Grammy Award for Best Solo Rock Vocal Performance. This is according to Deadline and CNN. My note, he will be missed. I miss that man. I'm going to be playing a lot of Meatloaf tonight at the Rab. I suspect. That's been 10 things you need to know today for Friday, January 21st, 2022. Thank you so much for listening. This is KeysDAN. Also, hey, just once again, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. And you can find me gaming from time to time, KeysDAN Gaming. Find me on Twitch, find me on Facebook Gaming, hashtag KeysDAN Gaming. That's it for me. I got to get to the Rab. I got a party tonight. The Rab in Conway, Arkansas. The Friday night video dance party karaoke jam. This has been What Makes You Smarter. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.